Hey everybody, Mrs. Hill here. Okay, so this is going to just be your kind of how-to video for Unit 1 Activity 8 for our like mini little culminating project, okay? As I said to you at the beginning of the semester, normally I'd have you do a whole large project right at the end of the semester, but we're not doing that. I've kind of just taken it, divided it into little chunks, okay? So keep in mind what we start with here today, you're going to be then taking forward in other units and still using, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so what you're going to be doing, okay? First things first, I want you to make sure you read all of my instructions, listen to the instructions when I go through everything during class, and of course, watch this video, okay? If you do all these things, you'll have a really strong understanding of what I'm expecting and what you need to do. Okay, so here's the task. So what I'm asking you to do is I'm going to be asking you to write a variety or a series of journal entries throughout the course as a Canadian character that you have chosen. Okay, I'll explain a bit more of that in a sec. These entries will reflect the time period we have just studied. So, for example, we finished now World War One. Okay, so you can imagine this is the time period we're going to be talking about. The character that you choose or that you create, okay, is going to get older as we go through the decades. They can't die. Do not ask me if they can die. They cannot die. Okay. And then at the end of each unit, at the end of unit 1 and 2 and 3, okay, I'll give you time to write a specified number of entries, okay, and then you submit them. Okay. So that's how that's going to go. Now, the character itself, if you're like, but what do you mean about a character? I don't know. Okay. So the character itself, you may choose one of the following Canadian characters on the next slide, okay, to assume for your journal entries. Now, keep in mind that this will be your character across the time periods that we are studying. The character must be Canadian. I've already said the word Canadian at least 4 times. Must be Canadian, and their home must be in Canada, even if they are traveling elsewhere. Okay, so those are the things that need to happen. All right, now we keep going here. All right. I've got a list of character choices, so you can choose to be, a soldier in World War One, maybe a boy living at home, 14 years old, girl living at home, maybe a nurse, those kinds of things. Okay, if you have another idea, just let me know. Ask me. Okay, you don't have to just go with what I'm giving you. Okay, but you can choose from the list, or you might come up with one yourself. Again, as long as they're Canadian, that's okay. All right, and remember, they're going to get older as they go through the decades, so it's kind of like they're just experiencing the 20th century with you. Now, next question, but how do I do this? Okay, so first things first, after you've kind of figured out what character you want, you are going to download the Unit 1 Activity 8 mini project character information chart. Looks like this, okay? And you fill it out, okay? Follow the instructions, and it'll kind of give you an idea as to, what you're supposed to do. Now, if you're like, but Mrs. Hill, I don't know how to do that, don't worry, I gave you an exemplar, okay? So I created one before. I created a character, okay, and I filled out this form just so that you know exactly what I'm looking for. So who are they related to? Who's their family? Where did they live? What's their job? Okay, those kinds of things going forward. So that way you have something to write your entries, okay, base them off of. Okay, you'll fill that out and then you will upload that as per the instructions on this slide. Then, once you have got your character chosen, then you can move on to the actual journal entries themselves, okay? So you'll see you're going to write each journal entry for each of the following dates as your character, all right? And I've given you a bunch of dates. Some of them are a little broad, some of them are very specific, some of them are broad, okay? And then I've also in brackets put next to each date what lesson that's associated to, so that way you can go back to our course content, all right, and kind of come up with lots of information historical information to add to what your character is experiencing, okay, in each of your journal entries. Each entry should be approximately 7 to 10 sentences, okay, and then just think about details about what's happening at home or overseas to give your character context, okay, and how they're reacting to those types of things, okay. Journals are meant to be personal, so adding your own emotions and details are encouraged. Now, if you're worried and you're saying, but Mrs. Hill, I'm still not understanding what you want, okay, don't worry. Just go right down to the bottom here, start at slide 12 and work your way through. I've given you exemplars of entries so that you know kind of what I'm looking for, okay, to give you ideas and context and all of that. Okay, so send me your questions as you need to, and happy writing.